Welcome, everyone. This is Legion M's Shindig for Bad Samaritan, and our guest star tonight is the director of the movie and the producer of the movie, and an all-around amazing, extraordinary guy, Dean Devlin. And we are so pleased to have him here tonight. But first, we are going to have a little message from our sponsors.
Welcome to Shindig. Tonight's broadcast is sponsored in part by the makers of Lie. Do you know all the amazing things you can do with Lie? It's not just for decomposing bodies anymore. Stop by your friendly neighborhood Lie dealer and find out how you can bring a little Lie into your life. Also sponsored in part by Sheehan's brand bolt cutters. If Sean Falco had had his Sheehans with him, it would have been a much shorter movie. That's why you should never leave home without your trusty Sheehan bolt cutters. And finally, by Olshan's, manufacturer of the finest quality shovels money can buy. Don't bring bolt cutters to a shovel fight. Buy Olshan's for all your shoveling needs. And now, your host, Terry Luberoff.
Yay! That was an amazing intro. Thank you, Damien, for putting that together. That's hilarious. So welcome, everyone. I think we have two people who want to come up and say a very quick hello. Terry, do you want to bring Paul Scanlon and Jeff Annison up? If we can find them. Let's see. The great thing about Shindig is it works really well most of the time, and sometimes we need to reload it. So as she's finding Paul and Jeff, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Shindig platform and how it works. For those of you who are on Shindig and not Facebook Live, the platform allows you to raise your hand, and you don't physically raise your hand. There's a little button with a hand. You press that, and that's how you raise your hand, and we'll call on you, and you'll be able to come up on stage and ask Dean a question. And there is Paul.
I'm raising my high five. Terry Luberoff, high five.
Boom.
Bam. Boom. How are you?
Welcome, Paul, CEO of Legion M.
Super excited to be here. Oh, my God. Can you believe it? We have Dean Devlin on our Shindig tonight. I mean, how cool is that?
It's so awesome. It's the best.
It's going to be amazing. Is Jeff coming up, or should we just blow him off? I don't know.
I think you should start.
Yeah, no, I think it looks like he's maybe on his way up. But okay. Anyway, so, one thing that I want to do, and I'll be quick about this, but if you're tuning in to our Shindig, this is something that Legion M does. We do fairly frequently. We want to bring in celebrities like Dean, and we have screenwriters come on. We have a reading club. But I also want to just give like a quick background for those that don't know what Legion M is. We're a fan-owned entertainment company. So a lot of the people you see attending this Shindig tonight, they co-own the company with me and Terry and Jeff. And, our goal is to unite fans together, because our theory and our, what we're setting out to prove is that an entertainment company owned by fans is better than an entertainment company owned by Wall Street or owned by corporate conglomerates. And unfortunately, the way the entertainment industry has evolved is most of our studios are now owned by Wall Street. And so anyway, we think there's a competitive advantage. We also think it can be a lot of fun. And then if you do decide to make an investment, the minimum investment's $100. So it's not like, we don't want anyone investing their life savings in Legion M. We want to have a vibrant community of passionate entertainment fans to take over Hollywood. And we're super excited because, we backed Dean. We got to know Dean. And, one thing that excited us about Dean is he's a fan himself, so he's like one of us. And so, we were really excited when we met, and he gets our business. Like I want to say it was almost like love at first sight. And it's been great. It's been an absolute thrill ride. And without further ado, I'm going to pass it back over to Terry, because you're all here to talk to Dean, and I am too, to hear it. Go ahead, Terry.
Awesome. Thanks, Paul. I don't think Jeff Annison is going to join us, but I'll say goodbye to Paul. And without waiting any longer, let's bring up Dean. Ladies and gentlemen, here we have the director of Bad Samaritan, Dean Devlin. Woo!
Hi.
Hi. Thanks for joining us tonight. It's so awesome. You look relaxed.
I am very relaxed. I am very relaxed and happy to be here.
Well, we're happy to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us. I started to tell everybody, and Dean, I don't know if you can see it on your platform as well, but if someone has a question and they raise their hand, they press the little hand raise button, and then they can come up and talk to us directly on stage. Otherwise, if you don't want to come on stage, you can press the little chat. I think there's like a little chat button, or I'm sorry, a question mark, and you can ask an actual just written question. And we have a bunch queued up. We have over 75 people on the Shindig and a lot more people on Facebook. So for those of you who are on Facebook, if you can't get on the Shindig platform, you can ask the question via Facebook, and our producers will feed those questions to me, and then we'll let you know what those are. So with that, Bad Samaritan is a good movie. It's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah,
We had we had so many meetups over the past weekend, and everybody really truly loved the movie. We're so happy to have you on. And I think if it's okay, we have a limited amount of time. We're probably have about an hour. I'm just going to dive into questions because we already have a lot. Does that sound okay?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Sure.
If you have anything burning you want to tell us, tell us. So, Edwina was. All right. So, Edwina was the first person on Shindig today. She's been waiting for over an hour. This was her very first question. It's the question that probably everybody wants to know. How did Cale Ehrenreich get rid of everything in those rooms so quickly?
So the main thing that he did was he had the girl who was chained up convert the room while he was with the other girl. That's why when he's in the car, he said, "You were so good tonight." He's done this so many times in so many different places. He always designs the rooms that they can be converted incredibly quickly. And then if you look in where the torture room was, the murder room, next time you see the film, you'll notice that when he opens the door, there's actually a little tiny door on the wall across from him when he opens the door there in the empty room. And when it cuts to Cale, Cale starts to lean in. And the reason he's leaning in is because if he goes in, if the detective were to go in and open that little door, he'd find all the stuff. So Cale was watching because if he moved into the room, Cale was going to kill him. But when he didn't need to.
Oh my gosh. That is so awesome. I wondered what that little door was for in that little room. Makes perfect sense. All right. So we have another one. We have so many questions. I'm going to kind of pick and choose. As a former, okay, here we go. This is from Rob Novicus. As a former Seattleite, I love that Bad Samaritan was set for the Pacific Northwest. Why did you decide to shoot in Portland? And will the PNW bring you back to shoot future films, maybe Seattle?
Well, I've actually been shooting up in Portland for almost 10 years now between the series Leverage and the series The Librarians. So I love it up there. We have an amazing crew. I think it's beautiful up there. But when I first read the script to Bad Samaritan, it was supposed to take place in Los Angeles. And the thing I love about Portland is that while it has all the accoutrements of a major city, in its heart and soul, it's a small town. I mean, everybody knows everybody's business. There are no secrets in Portland. So the idea of how Cale is able to systematically destroy the lives surrounding Sean, I found it to be much more credible in Portland than in Los Angeles.
That's cool. And you've been shooting lots of stuff in Portland for a long time too. So it's a second home for you.
Yeah, we've got 4 sound stages up there, and we own all of our equipment and props and costumes, and so we have a little mini studio up there. So it allowed us to do this movie for a lot less money.
And do you have crew up there that you use every time you go up? Like a dedicated crew? Or
the best crew I've ever worked with. Some of them are old pros, and some of them are kids who came out of Clackamas Community College and started as interns and worked their way up and got their union cards. And literally, it's the best crew I've ever worked with, and I would take them anywhere.
Oh, that's so awesome. We have an actual person who wants to come up on stage. Her name's Kat.
Okay.
We are ready for Kat T1, T2. I'm T1. Terry Pignon is T2. Let's see if she can bring her up. It takes a minute. There's a little bit of a lag time here sometimes. But, okay, it's not working. So we'll, what's that?
My theory on technology is that it always works perfectly until you try to use it.
That is absolutely right. That's so true. So here's a follow-up question about Portland. What is your favorite thing to do in Portland? Andrew wants to know.
Aside from Voodoo Donuts.
Yes, I love Voodoo Donuts. They're so good.
They're just the devil's food. It's just evil, pure evil. Probably it's going to Portland Trailblazer games, because the Portland Trailblazer fans, I think, are the greatest fans in the whole world.
Now, I'm not a big basketball person, but that is basketball, right? Is that a stupid question?
But I'm a Lakers fan, and I would go to those games, and the fans would laugh at me every single time that Portland would score, and especially if Portland won. And they were so knowledgeable about the players that not only would they tease them, they would tease them about the coaches they had in college. I mean, it was just an incredibly informed fan base. And even though they were constantly, in my face going, I never felt like my life was in jeopardy. I never felt like I was going to get my head handed to me. And that's just the kind of fans they are. They're rabid, they're enthusiastic, but they're also a sportsman.
That's so cool. Okay, so here is a question from Running Geek. First name Running, last name Geek. Did you put any Easter eggs in the movie? They were so caught up in the story, they thought it was funny when Sean got in Cale's car, the address above his cabin address said doctor. Was that on purpose?
That was absolutely on purpose. And there's a couple others in there, but I'll let
That's amazing. Running Geek, you win a prize for finding that, because I've seen the movie 8 times and I didn't notice that.
Well, you'll know there's certain screenings where there's actual laughter in that scene, and a lot of people go, "What are they laughing at?" And it's the people who saw Doctor.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Yeah, I totally missed that. I'm gonna have to go see it again this week just to catch the Easter eggs. Okay, Susie, how were the actors chosen, and was David Tennant in mind for Cale from the start?
Well, they were there from the start, from the moment that I got involved. I'm not sure who Brandon Boyce had in his head when he was writing, although knowing Brandon, he probably was just imagining the character and not an actor playing them. He fully creates these characters in his mind. But for me, I'm a gigantic Doctor Who nerd, and David Tennant is my favorite Doctor. So I just have been dying to work with him. So when I read the script, I thought, my God, if I could get him in this part, it would be amazing. And Robert Sheehan, I fell in love with watching the TV series Misfits. And if you haven't seen Misfits, put it on your binge watch list, because it's an incredible show. And he's incredible in it. And so I actually wrote a small part for him in my last film. And during the shoot of that, I snuck him the script of Bad Samaritan. I said, this is the movie I really want to do together. And fortunately, they both said yes.
So how does that work as a director who's putting together a project? Do you have to have the funding for it first before you go to the actors and say, I have this project? Or because you already had a relationship, you're able to go to them first?
Well, Robbie, I was able to go to early just because he had enjoyed working with me and thought that we'd be a good team to work together again. But Tennant didn't know me. And in a situation like that, you need the agents to make the submission, and the agents, they don't want to make that submission unless they know everything's for real. So yeah, we had to have the financing together. We had to make an offer, but it was sure worth it.
So what was your first conversation with David Tennant like? Were you totally geeking out?
It was not unlike what we're doing right now, because we did a Skype call because he was in London and I was in Los Angeles. And I tried in the beginning of the conversation to act like a very sophisticated director, but that melted away within a couple seconds when I started asking about the TARDIS and the sonic screwdriver. And then I really blew up my shirt and exposed I was wearing a Doctor Who t-shirt. At which point, David pointed out that I had the logo for the 11th Doctor, and he was the 10th Doctor, and that was a big foot in my. I had to humbly pull my foot out of my mouth and beg forgiveness.
But that's how big of a fan of Doctor Who you are. You watch it no matter who the Doctor is. You weren't pandering.
I love them all. I'm especially excited about the new one. I think she's going to be great.
Oh my gosh, a female Doctor? Are you kidding? That's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, here's a good question. Dennis Dickens. Dennis actually helped us promote Bad Samaritan at Silicon Valley Comic-Con, and he wants to know, this is a very loaded question, are you happy with how Legion M has promoted Bad Samaritan, and what more can we do for you next time? Thanks, Dennis, for that question.
I could not be more thrilled about everything that Legion M contributed and did for us, and I think they've been an enormous part of trying to get the word out. You know, what everyone has to understand is that as an independent film, we had a fraction of the money that studios have to put a movie out. So the people who came only came because somehow they heard about it through other people. And the engine that drove that word of mouth was Legion M. Now, if you're asking me, well, what could you do better next time? The only thing that could be better is when there's just more of you. You know, right now I think there's something like 35,000 members of the Legion. We get 1 million members, we're going to be able to change the world.
I like that. Dean.
Oh, you're not giving me that.
I love it. Let's keep doing it. Oh, Susie just wanted to follow up and say that David is her favorite Doctor too.
Nice.
Me too, Susie. That's awesome.
Don't get me wrong. I also love Matt Smith, but there was something that David did that I'd never seen before, and it was electric.
No pun intended.
Unintended.
Your company is named Electric. How did you come up with that name?
So my father was a huge enthusiast for electric cars. In fact, he got the very first consumer production electric car, the EV1. The very first one was given to him. And it was his passion in life. And the year that I formed this company, after I'd left Centropolis, the company I was with Roland Emmerich, was the year that my father died. And so to honor my father's passion, I wanted to name the company after the thing he loved most. And so we called the company Electric Entertainment. And our primary goal at the time was to do the documentary on what had crushed the electric car industry at that time. And we didn't know how to make a documentary because we'd been feature film guys and television guys. So it wasn't until a few years later that a former assistant of mine had met with Chris Payne, who had the footage of the electric cars getting smashed and destroyed. And then we finally were able to make Who Killed the Electric Car. So we were named first Electric Entertainment, but it was in service to the electric car, and ultimately we got to make the movie Who Killed the Electric Car.
Wow, that's so cool.
Credit for the resurgence of electric cars.
So it's all due to you. Tesla, the Leaf.
A group of people
Take the credit.
who I think kept the dream alive.
So we have a couple of... Yeah, absolutely. That's so cool. And I love that there's a history behind it. So we have a couple of live people who would like to come up. Larry Fleming, I'm going to bring you up to ask a question. And I met Larry at the Wholanta screening. Is that right? In Atlanta? Hey, Larry.
Populate. I'm there.
Yeah.
Hey, Dean, I told you just how much I really love the work you do. You seem to focus on intellectuals. Is that what drew you to this? Because, you know, Stargate, you have a genius that figures things out that nobody else could. Leverage, you got 5 guys that can figure things out. Librarians, same thing. You seem to focus on intellectuals. Is that something you draw to? Or is it just things we just happen to like?
Well, I think, you know, when you're either creating something or drawn to a project, it's because something about it touches you in a personal way. And having been a nerd my whole life, I think I'm always attracted to nerd stories.
That's a short and sweet answer.
Well, keep doing it because we love it.
Oh, thanks. And also, I mean, I think there's plenty of other people making movies about ultra macho people. I think my niche has always been nerdy smart guys, brainiacs, mad geniuses. Those are the characters I'm most drawn to. Probably why I like Doctor Who so much.
And the people who
on this, and you directed him in this. Follow-up question: a method actor would probably have problems working with this type of a character, drawn too much from the inside. How do you deal with it as a director? Because you have to visualize all this stuff before we do.
Well, the toughest part was on set after I said action, because once David transformed into that character, you could literally see everybody on set going, we all got kind of creeped out. And then I would say cut, and then suddenly he was back to being the sweetest man on the planet. So it was a little disconcerting during the takes, but before and after, he made us all feel comfortable.
Larry, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it. We have another person coming up. I don't know if his camera is working, but Brandon W., you've been waiting a long time to ask your question. We really appreciate it. Hopefully your camera and mic are working when I bring you up. There you are. We can see you. Brandon, can you hear us?
Oh.
There you are. Oh, we lost you. Brandon, we can't hear you. All right, we'll come back to Brandon. Brandon, maybe raise, if you want, just write a question. We'll get to that right away. Robert Blake Whitehill has been also waiting a long time. Robert, thank you for waiting. And you are coming up on the stage, my friend. Let's see if your camera and mic are working.
Ah, there it is.
Oh, his camera's working great, but no sound. Anybody read lips? We can't hear you. Ah.
Sorry, Robert.
Sorry.
Thanks for that amazing review. That was fantastic.
And okay, so let's try Eve Edelson. Okay, Eve, you're coming up on stage. Oh, nope. It's retrying. Let's try one more time. Oh, I have Dennis Dickens.
Oh.
That's not Eve, that's Dennis Dickens. Hi, Dennis.
Hello.
You are on camera.
Oh my God, I thought I was just asking a question. My question is, this has been a great experience for me. I met you at Silicon Valley Comic Con, and I'm hoping, what can we work with you on again in the future? Do you have any projects that we can work with you again?
Well, I have a TV show that's about to debut on the CW in July called The Outpost. Not sure how we could work together, but if we could find a way, I would love that. And then, of course, all the new projects we've got cooking, I would love to bring the Legion in much earlier.
Cool.
Awesome. Thanks, Dennis, for coming. Okay, let's go back to some of these written questions. Okay, this one's really funny, actually. Oof wants to know, how much do you think I'd have to pay for David Tennant to hit me over the head with a shovel?
I think you have to pay him a lot. One of the kindest people I've ever seen. It'd be hard to imagine what you'd have to do to David in real life to get him to hit you with a shovel. But in a part, he'd do it in a second.
That's so funny. Okay, here's another one. Adam Cox. This was an early question from when we started. What was the budget, and did the weather work in your favor for the film at all? Well, I know you had a lot of weather issues.
We did. The budget was approximately the catering budget of my previous film. So it was a very, very low budget. But as I said, because we were shooting in Portland with our crew, our cameras, our lights, our trucks, our costumes, we were able to do it at a dramatically reduced price. But the weather, I mean, turned out to be a gift. but it did cost us. Originally, we were supposed to shoot for 31 days, and I think we went 38 days. And it was all because we got hit with 5 snowstorms. So the weather was rough on the production and for the crew trying to get to work every day. But it gave us that beautiful third act in the snow up in the mountains, which had not been in the script, and I felt really played a character in the final movie. So I was very grateful for it. I remember one day in pre-production, I turned to our production, our location manager, and I said, "Does it ever snow up there? Because it would be really cool if the movie had snow at the end." And he goes, "It snowed there once in the last 10 years." So I was like, "All right, yeah."
Little did you know. Xavier says, "Hello, all. Love the movie." Thank you, Xavier.
Thanks. Tell your friends. We need the word of mouth to spread. Thanks.
All right. Matt Miller says, "I know we opened at number 10, which doesn't sound great, but relative to budget and advertising, where is that realistically in relation to your expectations?"
Well, we're disappointed. We were hoping we could do better. But again, we were trying to accomplish the impossible. So you always have to keep that word impossible at the front. You know, we were trying to release a movie on 2,000 screens with a fraction of the budget. And it's just really hard to we opened with 1% awareness. So literally every single person who did buy a ticket, they bought it because somehow they'd heard about the film through our word of mouth campaign. You know, we did screenings and the Legion worked really tirelessly. And I think that's what worked the best because no one ended up seeing any of the advertising we bought, or at least not in any kind of significant number. So it is very disappointing how we performed over the weekend. That said, what's been a big surprise is that traditionally when you do as poorly as we did, your drop from Saturday to Sunday is like 60%, but we only dropped 10%. And then our drop from Sunday to Monday was less than all of our competition. So the only explanation for that is the word of mouth that continues to spread. So it is our hope that everyone who did like the movie will continue to tell others and get on social media. And who knows, we might hang around the theaters a lot longer than anyone anticipates. And we might be able to make up that ground that we lost this weekend.
And I think the follow-up is, did we raise enough money to make a second one? Everybody wants to know, the bad guy wasn't killed off at the end. Could there be a second one?
We'd have to do a lot better. We'd have to make some more money in the theaters, and we'd have to do really well in the secondary markets. If we did, I'd be the first guy to want to make it. But right now, we're not quite there.
So everyone, that's for you to know. Tell all your friends, family, and even your enemies to go see the movie, and tell everyone they know to go see the movie this week. Okay, so here's a question about the original script from Eric. How did you find it, and did it deviate much? Did the film deviate much from the original script?
So the writer, Brandon Boyce, is an old friend of mine. And we had met when he did a movie called At Pupil, which is one of my favorite movies. I mean, I found that to be one of the most terrifying movies ever. And because it dealt with the real ugliness and horror and monsters that actually exist instead of the made-up ones we have in fiction. And so I've always known Brandon. We've been friends for a long time. And he called me about 5 years ago and said, "I just finished a new spec script. Would you take a look at it, give me some notes so I can do my last polish before I send it out to the world?" And I read it, I couldn't put it down, and I said, "My only note for you is don't show it to anybody because I want to make this movie." And I bought the script from him, and it took longer than I had hoped to shoot it, but we finally got it shot and done, and I'm incredibly proud of this movie.
Nisha wants to ask how Dean has been able to create such emotionally rich characters. And Nisha, by the way, hosted the Orlando meetup that I went to, and she hosted 2 meetups last weekend. She did a great job.
And I wish I'd been able to come. Well, the characters are created, they're first started in Brandon's head, and then I have discussions with the actors and discuss it. But really, the people who take it over the line are the actors. They live with the character 24 hours a day. When I'm making a film, I have to think about all the things going on, from how many extras to what color paint the car should be, and the actors. but the actors only think about their character 24 hours a day, so they bring an enormous amount. And my job isn't really to create the characters, but to put the cage in which the characters can exist. I can support the actor and their vision, and I can work with the writer on what's in his mind. But at the end of the day, I'm more the guy kind of corralling the animals in the stampede than I am actually stampeding. So I think all the credit for the characters really should go to Brandon Boyce and the actors.
So with that, Gabby wanted to know, what was the process for writing Cale's backstory?
So in the original draft, we didn't really go into it at all. It was more of an enigma. He was just this terrifying bad guy. But a couple things came out early on. One is I'm a dad of 2 girls. So it was really, really important to me that we didn't sexualize at all the capture of this woman, that it wasn't ever about sex, that Cale's sickness isn't about sex, it's about power, which I found more terrifying and more original. And so I wanted to add some things to make sure it was clear that we weren't sexualizing this abuse. And when David Tennant came on board, he wanted to understand more about that, because if it is sexual, you kind of understand it quickly. But once it wasn't sexual, well, what is that sickness? What is that thing? And it was all in Brandon's head, but he hadn't put it in the script. So we started talking about it, and the more we talked about it, and we kept pushing Brandon to explain it, suddenly Brandon realized that unconsciously what he was talking about was the way in which a trainer breaks a horse. And so then we started to evolve this whole backstory about, well, what could have happened to twist someone's mind into using the techniques of breaking wild horses into breaking wild people.
It's kind of scary. I guess that's the point of the whole thing. It's really scary. Eve Edelson has a nice comment here for you. Thank you for the first movie I've ever seen in which it's not the woman who falls down running away from the bad thing.
Yeah, in fact, it's Sean who falls. He's the one who trips, and she grabs him by the belt and lifts him up.
Now, was that in the script, or was that something you came up with on set?
I came up with it on set, and for exactly this reason. I just thought, in every one of these movies, the girl falls down and the guy helps her up. I said, we got to do the exact opposite. Because the truth is, the secret hero of the movie is our woman in bondage.
Yeah. And her famous line, which it's like the best line of all movies in the entire past decade.
I'll be honest, it was the line that made me say, I got to direct this movie.
And I mean, it's interesting. We're in this Me Too moment. And this, he wrote this before that moment.
Yeah, but it was in his head. I mean, he always said to me, the original title of the movie was Iron Girl, because for him it was about the girl chained in irons. But when we started to work on the script, everyone thought it was like a sequel to Iron Man. So we knew that wasn't going to work. But in the writer's mind, she was always the star of the movie, even though she had almost no dialogue and couldn't physically move. So for him, this was always about that moment. And you can kind of tell when it happens.
And Carrie plays that character with such depth.
Well, it's an enormously hard character to play because on the surface, she is becoming more and more docile through the entire film. But what we wanted to do with the characters, we wanted that the way in which she could be proactive is by feigning that she's becoming more and more docile. Now, that's an incredibly hard thing to ask an actor to do because there's no dialogue to exposit that. There's no character or behavior she can do to exposit that. So it's all subtext. It's all behind the eyes. And that's why we needed someone as with such technical and emotional skill as Carrie had, because she literally had to convey this with a bit in her mouth and just using her eyes. And I think she did that, especially in the scene where she passes by the open door and doesn't leave. Because her brain is working so fast, she knows that's not the way to escape this.
Yeah, that's so cool. We have a new live question. Ginger Crawford has a question for you. I think Terry Pignon is going to bring her up. And I think she pre-screened to make sure her camera was working. So Ginger, hi, welcome to Shindig.
Hey.
Hi, we can hear you. There you are.
Hello.
Welcome. Hi, Ginger. Thank you for coming to Shindig. You're on.
Can you
Do
hear
you have
me?
a question? Yep, we can hear you. Do you have a question for Dean?
I do. This was excellent work. It was well researched. I am one of those that study serial killers. This was just amazing work. I don't see how you did it on the budget that you did. It was fantastic. I am going again.
Oh,
I'm going to
thank
go
you.
see it. It was fabulous work. Just I don't have enough thumbs for thumbs up. My
Well,
question is, were you in any way influenced by Brian Fuller's decision to write a character for David in Hannibal as a seriously disturbed killer?
No, I really only learned about that recently. Um, I think I was probably more influenced by his portrayal as the Purple Man or Kilgrave in Jessica Jones. That's when I realized
Kilgrave.
that, yeah, I think that was really the thing that made me know that he could pull this thing off. But it's interesting what you're talking about, how researched the character was. Legion M did a screening in Denver, and there was a man in the audience who shared a very personal story, and he talked about how he himself had extreme OCD, and that he said that every single scene with Kale was exactly how he felt when he was in that state of extreme OCD, and he said that part of how he beat it ultimately was realizing that he was becoming psychotic by the intensity of his OCD. So he said everything from the way the cups were laid out and the way he would sip or the way his tools were laid out, he said all of that reminded him of what his daily life was like and how it was corrupting his mind. It was a very personal story for him to share, and it was really fascinating.
Yes, serial killers. They have their little rituals. They have everything has to be just so, and it has to be just. I mean, we had Ed Gein who used to eat out of the top of his mother's skull. They have these funny little things that they do, not ha-ha funny, but weird little things that have to be just so.
Yeah.
And Kale so compelling in that way. And Tennant was just amazing. The things that he did with his face or facial expressions, his face, where, when he would be talking to the cops, he would look like the sweet little puppy dog guy. And the minute they walked away, his face, skull-like appearance, and his eyes would go completely dead. And you chose such a great actor to play him. The direction was great, the writing was great, the photography was great, everything about this. I was just completely mesmerized the whole way through. I took my friend with me. She loved it. I've been checking Rotten Tomatoes. Audience loved it. 83% with a like on it. To hell with what critics say about this movie. People like it. That's what counts. People like the movie.
The thing about critics that at least when it's come to my career is that I think we're at like 55% on Rotten Tomatoes or something like that with the critics. Well, that's actually a higher percentage that we had with either Stargate or Independence Day or even The Patriot. And yet 20 years later, those movies still show on television every couple of weeks. And the movies that came out that year that won the Oscar, we never even hear about them. So I take what the critics say with a grain of salt. I care a lot more what people think who paid for a ticket.
Thanks, Ginger, for coming on.
Richard Burton never won an Oscar. So there you go.
There you go.
Thanks, Ginger. I think we have Kathy Udovich, aka you, Colin, coming on next. I think Terry's going to bring her up. And here we go. Ah, retrying the connection. Oh, Kathy, there you are. Hi, Kathy. Thank you for coming on Shindig.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah,
Hi. Okay. Yeah, the lag thing is a little odd. So my question to you, Dean, is when you talk about David being really sweet, we know, I mean, I was at the Long Beach screening where Carlito showed up and Del Pano showed up at WonderCon, you know, meeting Carrie and what's the other girl's name? You had a really, really nice cast. Yeah, yeah. You have a really great cast, but you also had a really competent cast. So when you're trying to put together casting for any movie, do you kind of want to balance the skill to bring out what you need in the characters with a cast that's going to get along together and get along with you and your crew? I mean, is one of those factors more important than the other?
Well, obviously, the level of performance is the number one most important thing because that's what people are going to pay money to go see. But if someone's going to be a real pain in the ass, they better be kind of crazy good talented to put up with it. And I've never met anyone who was really good enough that I would put up with that kind of craziness. So I've been very blessed by, for the most part in my career, I've had really, really talented actors who are genuinely nice to be around. I've been able to avoid the real jerks in my career, and something I'm very proud of.
Yeah, I was just going to say that from the beginning, when Legion M first started, you know, 2 years ago, it was basically one of the tenets that they promoted was we're not going to work with jerks. So, yeah. and I think we can count you among the you're not a jerk because you've been very open and very friendly in your promotion and working with the Legion.
Well, you know, everyone says life's too short for that, but I think that the problem is life is too long for that. Who can live with it for that long?
This is true.
Thanks, Kathy.
Yeah, so bye.
Bye.
Again,
thank you.
All the events. Really appreciate it.
So I see a couple of messages in my feed that some people are having trouble hearing. So I don't know if you'll hear this, but if you're having trouble hearing or it's going in and out, just hit refresh on your browser and it should pop up working again. We have Matt Miller with a raised hand. Terry, if you want to go ahead and bring Matt up. And we will say hello to him. I know his camera is working. We tested him earlier, and he's wearing a Legion M shirt. Hello, Matt Miller. Thank you for joining us. Hi, Matt. Welcome. What's your question for Dean?
Well, actually, you read my written question a while ago about
it's how loading on the iPad.
We opened at number 10.
Still got the spinning wheel.
Oh, you know what, Matt? Dean can't hear you. I'm gonna. Yeah, I think we answered his question previously. I'm going to take you off, Matt, and if you have another question, raise your hand. Because for some reason it's not working on Dean's iPad. But in the meantime, while we wait for that, this is from Lori, not a question, but a statement. This is the first movie my husband has not fallen asleep in the last 9 years we've been together, so thank you.
Well, I think that's my favorite review that we've had so far. I wish I could put that on a TV.
That's awesome. I took my dad on Saturday night to the movie, and we were sitting next to each other, and he kept grabbing my arm every time there was a jump scare. He was like,
well,
so it was
in a movie theater, and you know that's why I hope everyone who is remotely interested in the movie will see it now while it's still in theaters, because it's that moment. It's not just jumping and being scared. That can happen at home when you see it by yourself, but it's that moment of laughing afterwards because you're somehow embarrassed that you screamed in front of strangers, and then they're laughing because they screamed too, and then I don't know, there's this kind of communal experience that happens as we face our fears together in a dark theater. and we come out of it the other side. It's a cathartic experience. It's a fun party atmosphere. It's one of the things that really makes movie going special, and I hope people get to experience this movie in a theater for that very reason.
And you know what, Dean? That's exactly right. It is being together, being part of a community as you go see a movie and you come out and you talk about it. We don't really have a lot of water coolers anymore that we gather around. So it is a really awesome experience. Yeah. I love this question, Xavier. If you had unlimited resources, what would be a dream project for you?
Well, there's a script that we're going to be going out with this year that's written by a former Doctor Who writer named Tom McRae, who worked on The Librarians the last 2 years. And it is one of the most magical, amazing pilots I've ever read in my whole life. But it is a very expensive show. So I don't know if we're going to be able to set it up because of the sheer amount of dollars it would take to bring this vision to the screen. But if I had unlimited resources, I'd write a check and just go make it, because it is a crazy, fantastic universe that Tom created, and it would be an enormously fun playground. If you could imagine Game of Thrones that the whole family could watch, and the lead character is Doctor Who. That's kind of what it's about.
Oh my gosh. Are you kidding? That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy good.
So what is the process for something like that? Just to kind of pull back the curtain a little bit for the people who are curious.
Well, we're currently trying to put together a package of things attached to the project. Once we have that, we'll go to the very few places that could afford to make a show like this and see if they'd be interested, but it's a very tricky thing. My father used to say getting the green light on any project was, if you could imagine a tunnel that went for a mile, and every 4.5 feet there was a string that hung from the ceiling with a ring on it, and all the rings are going like this. To get a green light on a show, you have to throw the dart at the exact moment that all the rings line up. So it's
my God.
And that's why every time you do get something made, it feels like a miracle, because a lot more good projects don't get made than do.
That's a perfect analogy, actually. And I haven't heard that one before. Here's another really good question from just a pure creative point of view. What are some of the most challenging things you've had to go through as a director?
Well, I think it's different depending on where you're working. In television, the most challenging thing was just trying to maintain your wish list with the limited money and the limited time you have. In making a feature film at the studio system, it's trying to navigate the thousands of voices that have power and dilute your voice. And I found I wasn't very good at that. And then independently, it is, again, trying to make the most of what you have with the very little you have, and trying to do it in such a short amount of time. Those are really the challenges. They're all kind of practical challenges. I think the most challenging thing I've ever done creatively was Bad Samaritan, simply because it was unlike anything I had ever done before. So I had to rethink every aspect of the filmmaking process, from how I framed a camera, how I lit a scene, to how long a scene could be. Hitchcock said that what directing really is manipulating time. It's deciding what things should go much faster on film than it would happen in real life. And then it's stretching stuff out that would go much slower on film than it would happen in real life. And it's choosing those moments and deciding. And I think all the rhythms that I was accustomed to were incredibly different than Bad Samaritan. So it was a real scary idea to try and do something so out of my comfort zone. So that was probably the biggest creative challenge I ever had.
It must be gratifying to see the response that people have to it, having stretched creatively like that, and then have people love it so much.
Well, when you're an actor and you do theater, you put out an enormous amount of energy for 2.5 hours or whatever. But at the end, when you hear the applause or the laughter, all that energy comes back to you. So when you leave the stage after a long play, you actually feel okay. You're actually kind of energized. But when you do film or television, you put all this energy out, and it doesn't come back for months and months, sometimes years later, and sometimes it never comes back at all. So I was pretty wiped out until that very first screening of the very first cut of Bad Samaritan, because I had no idea if I'd completely blew it. And the first time I heard them laughing, for instance, when the axe breaks off, I felt like, okay, this is going to work. They understand the humor. They understand the tone. And that's when that was the first time I actually felt good about making it.
So we have a follow-up question about being a director from Melissa. I think that first question was from Melissa too. Hello, Dean. You are a great man. Thank you, Melissa. That's very nice. What can you suggest for those who want to direct their first film?
What I would suggest to anybody who's interested in directing film is that you live in a time of enormous technical accessibility. When I started out, I had to buy a Super 8mm film camera. I had to get a little editor thing. I had to learn how to splice film and put the cement on. And I mean, there was a whole lot of technical challenges. And then it still looked like a home movie at the end of the day. But today, anyone with an iPhone can download editing software onto their phone, and they can shoot a pretty professional looking film. You know, Steven Soderbergh, one of our best filmmakers, just released a movie that he shot entirely on an iPhone. So my number one suggestion to anyone who wants to direct is just start making films. Make as many as you can, as often as you can. It doesn't matter if it's 2 minutes long or an hour long or 2 hours long. It's whatever is appropriate for the story. But you have this technical ability to not just make these films and have them be a pretty darn good quality. You have distribution channels available. You can get it on YouTube or Vimeo or on Facebook, and you can get it in front of an audience. So to me, the more films you make, the better you're going to be, and the more people are going to see whether or not you have any talent. And if you do, someone's going to recognize it. Someone's going to say, that person's doing something really interesting. We need to have a conversation.
I think that's amazing advice. And there's definitely lower cost to entry to becoming a filmmaker these days than there used to be. Sure. We live in a very lucky time in that sense. Michelle Carter said she noticed Joseph Loduca did the music for Bad Samaritan, and she knows he also did it for Leverage and Librarians. Is he a favorite go-to musician for you? And how did you guys originally connect?
So we originally connected on the very first Librarian movie back in 2004. And we were looking for a composer for the movie of the week. And I remembered his work on the early Sam Raimi movies, like Evil Dead. And I thought he was an extraordinarily talented composer. So we just threw it out there to see if he'd be interested in doing it. And he did it. And I thought he did a remarkable job on it. And we just started working together. And when it comes to music, I'm not the easiest director to work with, because I'm very specific about what I'm looking for the music to accomplish. But because I'm not a composer, I can't compose it. So I'm not the best at articulating what I want, but I know exactly what it is I want. So it can be frustrating at times for a composer, but he had great patience with me. And we learned a shortcut language with each other. So I love working with Joe, and I'll work with him as often as possible, simply because our ability to communicate on the role that I need the music to play in my work, he already understands that from kind of a intuitive place, having worked with me for so long.
So does the conversation go like this? Joe, I think we need some strings here. I think we need a driving force there. Or do you hand him temp music where you're like, I kind of want it to sound like this?
It actually starts much earlier than that. Joe actually will come on the set of something I'm shooting, and he'll have private conversations with the actors. And often they'll tell him stuff that they would never tell me about their character. And so that will inform him on a lot of the stuff that's going on in the subtext of the character that hopefully he can draw out with the music. Then he'll present me with those themes. And once we refine those themes, then it becomes about, okay, what do I need the music to accomplish in any given scene? And so then we'll go through his themes and see which ones work the best. And yes, I'll put temp music on if there's something very specific I'm needing the music to accomplish. And then we'll find which theme of his can work in a pattern like that or in a tone that way. It's a very it's a long process. It's a grueling process. But as I said, luckily he's got the patience to deal with me.
I think we have another live question. Brandon.
By the way, his score.
Oh yeah.
His score went on sale on last Friday, so it's available on iTunes, and you can order the disc. I think it's some of his best work, and I highly recommend it.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing! All right, everyone, so it's iTunes, right? You can find it on iTunes. All right, I am a soundtrack collector. I'm going to be buying that as soon as the Shindig's over. I'm super excited. Okay, Terry Pignon, we have Brandon, I think, queued up with a live question. Here we go. There, Brandon, I hope it's working now.
Hello?
Yes, it's perfect. We see you and we hear you.
Yay.
Welcome.
I got him.
Oh,
yay.
Yes.
Yay. Now it's working everywhere. iPad 12.
Okay, so I'm a big fan of Leverage and the Librarians, and obviously this movie is drastically different from anything that I've seen you do in either of those shows. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about what it was like just trying to adjust to that difference.
Well, you know, the first time I was going to attempt something like this is I originally wanted to direct a movie I produced called Cellular. And the version of that movie that I wanted to do would have been much closer to Bad Samaritan. But at the time, the studio wanted another director, and the other director wanted to do a different kind of tone to it. So it turned into a different kind of movie. So I had not yet gotten my early Brian De Palma kick out of my system yet. So it was there waiting. But you know, I grew up loving movies like Dress to Kill or Carrie. Phantom of the Paradise is still one of my favorite movies. So early Brian De Palma thrillers were something that was heavily on my mind, and the way that he would scare people. Now, obviously, he was using the cinematic language of Hitchcock, but he was doing it in a different way. So, in essence, I wanted to try my hand at Hitchcock twice removed.
That's cool. Thanks, Brandon, for your question. We really appreciate
Thank you
being on.
Nice to meet you, Brandon.
So, Dean, we're at 6 o'clock. We told everybody it would be an hour, and I don't want to monopolize your time. We have a lot of questions. I would a little bit longer. Okay, you let us know when you're getting tired.
Right.
We really appreciate your time, and I think everybody's really enjoying this tonight. So next live question, we have someone who came on as Sweeney Todd. I assume that's not your real name, Mr. Todd.
No, my name's Chris Sweeney.
Oh, hello, Chris Sweeney.
Hey, Dean.
Good. I can hear you. Dean, can you hear him?
Not yet. I still got the spinning wheel. We'll see if it clicks in. It tends to
see me,
click in
Dean?
later, I guess.
And now I can see you.
Yeah. Hey, how you doing? All right. So my question, I got a couple of quick questions. Was there any scenes that you didn't get him to put in the final movie that you can share with us so we can kind of like share that with other people after they've seen the movie?
Yeah, there's about 8 or 9 scenes that were cut from the film, and I'm probably going to include all of them on the DVD, just because they weren't cut because the scenes weren't good. They cut because either the energy or rhythm of the movie worked better without them, and in some cases because I liked the story better without it. For instance, I ended up really liking that one of the consequences that Sean has to pay for being a thief in the beginning is he loses his girlfriend. But in the original, we shot a forgiveness scene at the very, very end where she forgives him for what she's done. They still separate, but there's kind of peace between them. And I liked it better when he just lost her altogether. Yeah, that seemed to be a more fitting payment for the sins of his past.
Any alternative endings that you had in mind, that you shot or you had in mind and then changed? I like the way it ended, but I always wonder.
Well, it wasn't an alternate ending. It's just the movie went on. Initially, after that scene where the film ends, we cut to a hospital 3 weeks later, and Sean meets Katie, the girl who'd been tied up. He meets her for the first. He meets her at the hospital and learns her name for the first time. And then immediately afterwards, as he's about to head home, he sees his girlfriend shows up and says she forgives him, but she's going away to college. They were nice scenes, and the acting was very good in it, but it didn't feel right for the movie. The movie felt like it was over as soon as Cale was struggling in the chains.
Thanks a lot, mate. Thank you very much. Awesome film, and keep doing good work, mate. All right.
Thanks, man. Nice talking to you. Take care.
Cheers.
Thank you. So you mentioned the DVD. When can we expect the DVD to be out?
I think it comes out in August.
Okay. So my birthday is in August. If anyone wants to buy me a birthday present. Oh, yay! Okay, we have another live question from Bob. Terry, if you can bring Bob up to the stage, that would be awesome. And here we are counting down. Let's see how long it takes the camera to work on this one. All right, it's retrying. Well, while we're waiting for that to retry, I'm going to post just a comment. This is from Eric. I took my 80-year-old mother as part of a mother-son date. She loved it and needed a brandy after and didn't fall asleep until 1 p.m. And this is typically not her type of film.
Oh, my dear. Well, thank you for bringing her. I hope she enjoyed it, and I hope it didn't hurt her health.
Depends on what kind of brandy it was, I think.
Yes, so.
Here's an interesting question. Hi, I'm Amelia. In true Dean Devlin fashion, you engage technology as a storytelling device, and one reviewer said you had a deeper message about the overuse of technology. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, this really started, again, with something Brandon was very passionate about, our screenwriter, in that normally when you do a movie that's frightening, is you have to find a way to isolate your characters. You know, they're stranded on a spaceship, or they're in a haunted house, or they're isolated. But we live in a world where it's less and less believable that anyone can be isolated. We're also connected with technology. So Brandon felt very strongly about flipping that on its ear and trying to show how vulnerable we are through technology. That that even our characters who feel like they're using it in a slick way to their own advantage, that they see that very same technology turning back on them. And having worked on the TV series Leverage, I learned through our experts, who were all former thieves, who were advising us on really how there is no security where we think that there is security. And so it was exciting to kind of put that into a film, to show that we trade comfort for a lack of security.
Yeah. Especially when we have Alexa in our homes and could be listening to everything you say. It's very timely. We have a couple of questions that have asked this. This is from Brooke, but a couple of people asked this. What's up with the spoon scene in the cabin?
All right, so this is a scene where we didn't really want to spell it out, but once I explain it to you, if you see the scene again, you'll get it. When he looks in the sink, he sees 2 bowls, but only 1 spoon. So he knows that she's kept a spoon. And for him, that's a mark of resistance. She's going to try to use the spoon either as a weapon or to dig her way out of the, in some way she's going to try and use that spoon as a tool. So he comes charging at her, saying, I know what you've done. But she points to the ground to show that she's already pushed the spoon out of the cage, that she had realized that she was making a mistake, and she had already given up on the idea of using the spoon for anything.
And so that he said, "Good girl," but still punished her for it,
right?
For no breakfast.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. So Edwina wants to know, how many people did Cale kill totally?
We never came.
And I kept trying to count on the map when they were at the FBI, but it was too fast. I couldn't count.
Well, the map is only the people that he did, that he tried to correct, like Katie.
Okay.
But in our mind, he kills all the time. But those he corrects, that's when he actually takes them into custody and he brings them to Oregon and ultimately puts them in that grave, which is why we see so many bones at the very end. But I think there's a lot of people like Carlito that he kills randomly and then just gets rid of their bodies.
Yeah. So, is he constantly moving to evade detection, or does he? And why Oregon? Why does he come back to Oregon? Was that a family piece of land?
Yes.
It's part of the trust, right?
That's right. So it was a 2,000-acre privately owned ranch from his parents, and it's the spot where he killed the horse trainer when he was a child. So he always comes back. Got
it. This is a great question from Gabby. How do you craft a great jump scare? Okay, great. You guys, these questions are so nice. I think we'll probably only have a few more minutes with Dean. We really appreciate everything. And Gabby, we're going to get to your question. And then Ian, we're going to have a live question with you in just a few minutes. But I will say that I am so appreciative of everybody's questions. And I hope you're getting a lot out of this. And there's Dean. Sorry, he's back. That was so fast.
The iPad
you needed a plug.
Yeah, I have to get my backup battery. There we go.
Thank you. Okay. All right. So Gabby wants to know how we craft a great jump scare.
Well, I want to give a lot of that credit to my director of photography, Dave Connell, who also shot The Librarians and Leverage. He had done a lot of work on different Stephen King movies. So he actually educated me on how to do jump scares and the way in which you reveal something where you have to do a misdirect and you want the audience looking one way and then something shows up somewhere else, and building false anticipation without a payoff so that when it does have it, you don't expect it. But a lot of the technical aspects of creating jump scares really came from my wonderful director of photography.
That's awesome. And that goes to show like what a collaboration filmmaking is.
Yeah, for sure. You know, nobody makes a movie by themselves.
Right. Unless you have an iPhone and it's just you and a mirror. Right. Okay. Terry Pignon, we have Ian ready and queued up to ask a live question.
Oh, hi. I was just wondering, since this story is being told in like the old school Brian De Palma format, that if your effects were, I'm Ian. I forgot to introduce myself.
Hi, Ian. Thanks for coming to Shindig.
Oh yeah. I'm an actor too, and I really love this movie, and I really like it when I see like old school Brian De Palma style films, or films that are like like good old fashioned thrillers. And I was just wondering if your effects, I couldn't tell by looking at the film if the effects were CGI or practical. And I was wondering if like the explosion for when you exploded Kale's house, if that was a CGI or if that was a miniature or something, and how did you accomplish it if it was practical?
Okay, so the horse that's whipped in the beginning is 100% CG, and if you go on my Facebook page, I put a video that shows how we created that. But I didn't want to shoot.
Oh,
wow. I didn't want to film at all a real horse because I didn't want there to be any question about a horse being injured in any way for the making of the film. So the horse was 100% CG. The house was a combination of the real house and a blue screen model of the house that we blew up. And so the green screen model of the house was superimposed on top of the real house to give it the illusion that it was in the act of blowing up. But the funny part was that the day we shot the model blowing up, the owners of the real house were on set. So they saw this blue screen model on a tabletop, but next to me, they saw their house. And it was superimposed on top of each other. So when it blew up, they were actually watching their house blow up, and for the news, you could imagine.
It must be quite an experience.
That must have been really exciting to see that.
It was crazy. It was crazy fun. And then, of course, how we made the dirt fall in the grave. That was an old-fashioned practical where we took the set and we attached the camera to it and then tilted the set. And as we tilted the set, the dirt fell. And again, I posted that up on Facebook as well if you want to see the behind the scenes on how that worked.
Oh.
Thanks, Ian. We really appreciate your question. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
And we have another live question. Then maybe, Dean, what do you think? 3 more written questions? Would that be okay?
Sure.
Okay, 2. Okay, thanks.
Fine.
Okay, Rachel, we have a live question from Rachel. And I think this might be the Rachel who helped us out at WonderCon.
No,
Let's see. Let's see if it is. And it's queuing up.
You see?
Nope, different Rachel. Hello, Rachel.
Hi.
Welcome.
Hi, Dean.
Oh, I'm still waiting on my end.
He has a bit of a lag on his end.
Wonder why it's
all right. And it's a different browser, maybe.
No, it's actually the app. It's their iPad app.
Oh,
there you are. Hi, Rachel.
Hi. Yay. How are you? How's it going?
Good to meet you.
You know, I am not a scary movie fan by any means, and I would never ever go to one if I did not know you were behind it. So thank you for doing this one. It was great.
Well, thank you, and I'm glad we didn't disappoint you.
It was awesome. I've told everybody to come see it, and they're amazing. I even sat through the whole thing. We have a huge David Tennant and Doctor Who fan base here in the States. Question for my friends who are overseas. They want to know, will Bad Samaritan be played over there? And are you going to have a screening like you did here for Legion M over there?
Well, it depends on which territory you're talking about, but we just opened in Asia the same weekend we opened here, and we opened in Canada the same weekend. We're opening on the 9th in the Philippines. We'll soon be opening in Turkey and Brussels. In August, we'll be in Germany and the UK. And then Latin America, I'm not exactly sure the date, but Latin America should be happening pretty soon. And then we're still selling the film all around the world.
So is this going to be Legion M meetups over there too? Because I'm ready. Let's go.
Yes, let's do it. Absolutely.
Let's do
it. I know we're planning a London meetup.
Legion M. Let's do it.
Is it in August that it comes? August 24th for London?
Yeah.
All right, August 24th, and we have a Legion M. We have a Legion M person over there. You guys have to coordinate. Thanks, Rachel.
Sign me up. I'm ready.
Thanks for being on.
Great.
All right, so Dean, just a couple of really quick final questions. I think one of the biggest questions Legion M has is how can we help? You know, it's in release. We're going into the second weekend. What can we do to help you?
The number one thing is to let people know that other people are enjoying the movie. You know, so if you see that somebody has tweeted that they like the movie, retweet it. You know, aside from just telling the people that you know that you liked it, if you could let the people you know that other people liked it, and hopefully we can let that momentum build. We've been holding surprisingly strong for a movie that performed as poorly as we did, and that can only be attributed to word of mouth. So the more we can let people know that real people who buy tickets are enjoying this movie and they're enjoying it significantly, that they should give it a try, the more chance we have of staying in the theaters, and the longer we stay in theaters, the better the picture will do.
Awesome. So everyone, as we go into the next week and weekend of Bad Samaritan, tweet, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, whatever you can do to get it out there.
Retweet and retweet. Other people.
And tell all your friends and family to do the same. So I think we might have one last question. And I just want to answer this one specifically. Shall we do meetups for week 2 and 3 beyond? Kathy, if you're inclined to do meetups for week 2 and 3 beyond, absolutely we should do meetups for week 2 and 3 beyond. Let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, and aside from it being a promotional tour, a promotional tool, the meetups are the most fun way to see the movie. I mean, for anyone who's been to a meetup, it just makes the whole experience event-like. It makes it a party, and that's the best way to enjoy this film. This film wasn't made for a critic in the dark to try and win an Oscar. This was made for people to go out together and experience something fun in a movie theater, and there literally is no better way to see the movie than in a Legion M meetup.
Thanks, Dean. We really appreciate you having time to be on tonight on our Shindig. Thank you so much for answering amazing questions. And just so you know, we had another 111 questions that we didn't get to.
Oh my.
Questions and comments. A lot of people are saying how much they love the movie, that they brought their friends, that they brought their mom. And people are very excited to hear that it'll be released on DVD this summer. And there are lots of people from overseas that are asking when it's coming out in the UK and in Canada and places like that. So we really appreciate your time. And is there anything else you'd like to say to the Legion M community before we sign off?
Well, the only other thing is about the movie opening around the world. We have a website called badsamaritanfilm.com, and as other territories release the movie, we're going to put it on the website, and the events that happen, we're going to put on the website. So whenever you have questions about the film, or the DVD, all the information about the DVD will be on the website. So it's a tool to share for anyone who's interested in knowing what's going on with the movie.
Perfect. Awesome. So we have one more thing. I forgot about this. We are giving away 3 signed posters of Bad Samaritan, mini posters that were signed by you and the cast. And these are people who saw the movie opening weekend and who posted a picture of themselves on Twitter. So Terry Pignon, do we have the names of the winners? Poster giveaway number 1. She is bringing up the names of the winners. I'm waiting for them. Here she comes. We're so excited, Terry. This is awesome.
The suspense.
Do you have the name? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Dean, can you hear me? You are in a Terry sandwich, and that doesn't happen very often, by the way.
Wait, we got to do it this way. Sandwich.
All right, I've got 84 finalists that actually followed the rules, and I was able to pull out of all the tweets from the weekend that actually posted the picture and hashtag. So I'm going to click, and randomly pick 3. So number 1 is Edward Olivas. Number 1,
Yay!
Edward Olivas.
Edward.
Yep, I have his handle, and I will be yes, to Nilo. All right, let's pick another one. I don't know if they're online, but right now. But
we'll message them so we know.
Yeah.
And these are all signed by the whole cast, right?
Alan Williams. Yes, the whole cast. This including David and everybody.
Alan. So far we have Edward and Alan who have won posters. That sounds like a furniture company.
Hold on, it's load. Megan Robinson is the 3rd one. At
Megan
Flower 2000. That's right.
Nice job, everyone. Congratulations on your poster wins.
Thank you for playing.
Thank you, Dean, for having the cast sign those posters and for you signing them. We'll get them out to the winners this week. And thank you for joining our Shindig. We love working with you. We can't wait to continue to support Bad Samaritan and everything else you do.
The feeling is mutual. Yep. Thank you again. Thank you to everyone who helped out. Thank you for everyone who came and saw the movie. And from the bottom of my heart and from everyone at Electric Entertainment, we are grateful and thank you.
Great.
All right.
Have a great night, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Adios.
So for those of you who are still on, I hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you have any questions for Legion M, hop on Facebook and go ahead and ask questions on our Facebook pages. And we are, as always, very pleased that you joined us and that you spend your time with us. We value you so much, and we really appreciate all of your support of your own company. Keep up the good work. Keep spreading the word. We're going to have so much fun with all of our projects, and we hope you have a great night. Thanks for joining. Talk to you soon.